You wake to the sound of dripping water. The air is cold, thick with rot and rust. Chains rattle somewhere behind you, just out of sight. Your wrists ache, raw from iron cuffs that pull your arms above your head. Somewhere nearby, someone whispers a prayer, then a scream cuts it short. The torchlight flickers against the stone walls, throwing your shadow into a trembling dance. You try to move, but your feet are bound tight. A hooded man steps closer, dragging something metallic across the floor. The scraping echoes through the dungeon like a promise. You can smell the fire before you see it, burning oil, charred wood, and something worse. The man speaks softly, almost kindly, as he turns the black iron over the flames. The tip glows red. You try to breathe, you try to reason, but down here, reason doesn't matter. Down here, pain is the only language spoken. You were accused of heresy, or maybe witchcraft, or betrayal. It doesn't matter which. The accusation alone condemned you. Now you are just another body in the system. A system built not for justice, but for spectacle. A place where the screams of the guilty and the innocent rise together until they become indistinguishable. The iron meets skin. The smell hits first, sweet and sour at once. You arch backward, your voice breaking into something inhuman. The sound bounces off the walls, absorbed by centuries of similar cries. When it ends, you aren't conscious. You don't know that this was only the beginning. You don't know how many more devices wait in the dark, each crafted not just to destroy, but to teach obedience. Because what happens to you in this room isn't random. It's part of a carefully designed library of pain. And tonight, we're opening it. To understand what really happened in places like this, we have to step back, out of the cell, beyond the scream. What you just heard was one fragment of a vast, methodical world where pain became policy. Every empire, every faith, every crown had its favored instrument, each designed with precision, not chaos. Some claimed it was for truth, others for purification, but all of them served the same purpose: control. What follows are 10 forbidden torture methods erased or buried by history, not because they were legend, but because they were real. Here are the tools that turned fear into endurance, and endurance into silence. The brazen bull, the metal of madness. You're locked inside a hollow bronze bull. Every breath echoes off the metal walls. Beneath you, fire roars to life. The device was an ancient Greek invention, attributed to Perillus of Athens. Victims were placed inside as executioners lit a fire beneath, cooking them alive while their screams roared through pipes shaped as the bull's nostrils, turning agony into spectacle. Perillus, the inventor himself, was said to be the first to test it, a dark irony in a system that rewarded innovation with death. This was pain converted into theater. It wasn't just killing, it was performance, a message to anyone who dared defy the tyrant Phalaris of Sicily. If you think that's excessive, wait until you see what the church did with wood and rope. The Judas cradle. Purification by pyramids. You are lifted by ropes suspended over a sharp wooden pyramid. It points upward, silent, waiting. Slowly, the ropes lower you down. This device, used during the Spanish Inquisition, forced victims to descend onto the tip, designed to pierce but not instantly kill. The suffering could last for hours, even days, depending on how merciful the inquisitor felt. They claimed it was to extract confession, but the real goal was submission, to remind the crowd that the church could turn faith itself into an instrument of pain. Records rarely mention it by name now because the image was too obscene even for history books. And yet, humiliation would take an even crueler form. The pair of anguish. Silence from within. You're forced to open your mouth. Metal prongs slide in, cold against your tongue. The screw turns once, twice, and the prongs expand. The pair of anguish was a spring-loaded device inserted into the mouth, rectum, or womb, depending on the alleged crime, blasphemy, sodomy, or adultery. Twisting the screw forced the metal leaves to spread, tearing tissue until the victim passed out or bled to death. Its origins trace through 17th century Europe, often associated with witch trials and moral punishment. It was surgical cruelty masquerading as justice. There was no confession left after that, only silence. And still, others preferred pain that moved, pain that stretched. The rack, the orchestra of sinews. Your limbs are tied to both ends of a wooden frame. A wheel turns. Slowly, your joints begin to separate. The rack tore the human body apart by degrees. Each twist tightened the ropes, dislocating shoulders, hips, and knees, while the spine warped like a bowstring. Screams weren't interruptions, they were progress reports. It was widely used across medieval Europe, England, France, Spain, from royal courts to dungeon basements. Even nobles weren't immune. Guy Fawkes faced it before his execution in 1606. The rack's power wasn't its violence, but its patience. You could beg to die long before they let you. But some torturers didn't need ropes. They used insects. Scaphism, death by devouring. You're trapped between two wooden boats, face exposed, limbs pinned. They pour milk and honey over your skin. Then they wait. This Persian method, whispered in ancient texts, used nature itself as the instrument. Covered in sweet residue, the victim attracted insects, flies, ants, worms, which burrowed into the skin. Over days, the body decomposed alive under the sun. Reports describe victims surviving a week, conscious through delirium, madness, and decay. The Persian kings used it to make betrayal unforgettable. It was slow justice for a fast crime. But where scaphism used the open sky, another method mastered the elements underground. The coffin torture, dying in public. You stand naked before a crowd. Behind you, a metal cage hangs from a beam. It's shaped like a human body, and it's waiting. The coffin was an iron frame that confined the victim in an upright position, exposed to weather, insects, and jeering mobs. Sometimes priests or guards smeared the body with honey to speed decay. Used throughout medieval Europe, it transformed punishment into public theater. Every passerby could witness the slow disintegration of flesh as a sermon of obedience. It wasn't efficiency they wanted, it was endurance, a reminder carved in spectacle. Yet some punishments didn't need spectators. They took place in silence below stone floors. They strap you down to a wooden wheel. The executioner raises an iron bar. One strike, your arm shatters. Another, the leg breaks. The breaking wheel, or Catherine wheel, turned execution into ritual. Each limb was methodically destroyed before the body was woven through the spokes and left to hang in the open. It became infamous across the Holy Roman Empire and France, reserved for traitors or murderers. Bodies sometimes remained on display for weeks, food for crows, and warnings to all. It wasn't about death, it was about fracturing the human shape into obedience. But some punishments aimed deeper, not at the body, but at identity. The Iron Maiden, the kiss of the Virgin. The door creaks open. Inside stands a tall metal figure, shaped like a woman, lined with spikes. You're pushed forward. The Iron Maiden was long thought to be a myth, but versions of iron cabinets lined with inward spikes did exist by the late medieval period. Victims were enclosed upright, pierced but not fatally, prolonging suffering for hours. The image, a saintly female form delivering divine pain, symbolized purity corrupted. It appeared in chronicles of Nuremberg and beyond, though later evidence suggests some reconstructions may have exaggerated its use. Whether real or reproduced, its symbolism was terrifying. Salvation turned predator. But there were devices that acted with far less elegance and far more heat. The chair of nails, throne of agony. The torturer gestures toward a chair, polished iron studded with spikes. You're told to sit. Chains lock your arms and legs. You realize the chair is heating from beneath. The chair of nails existed in multiple forms, from Italy's Inquisition chambers to the prisons of France and Germany. The version known as the interrogation chair featured hundreds of needles, some heated, designed to impale but not kill instantly. Victims often sat bound for hours as interrogators asked gentle questions. Every movement pierced deeper, every silence scorched skin. Sitting, the simplest human act, became unbearable. But there was one method still worse, one so cruel it erased memory itself. The rat torture. Nature's engineer of terror. You're tied down in darkness. A metal bucket rests on your stomach. Inside, something moves. The torturer pours coals atop the bucket. The rats inside panic, seeking escape. The only way out is through you. Rat torture was used by secret police, inquisitors, and warlords from ancient China to 16th century Europe and even during South American dictatorships. The rats, driven by heat, clawed and chewed through flesh to survive. It wasn't about extracting truth, but erasing willpower entirely. Victims confessed to crimes they couldn't remember, simply to end the waiting. This was not punishment, it was annihilation with teeth. And that brings us back to the room we started in. Imagine the dungeon again. The torchlight, the echo, the smell of burning oil. The sounds you heard weren't random. They came from devices like these, crafted by blacksmiths, sanctioned by priests, ordered by kings. The victim there, the one whose screams filled the air at the beginning, she could have faced the Judas cradle or the iron chair or worse. The name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what these tools represented, the organized, perfected engineering of fear. Every bolt turned, every fire lit, every screw tightened, not for truth, but for control. Because torture was never just about the body, it was about the idea that power could decide when humanity ends. Today, these methods are buried, sanitized by the pages of history books, labeled as exaggerations or legends. But the truth is far darker. They were real enough to silence millions, and their echoes still live in the hidden prisons of our own time. Newer tools, same intention. The world may have changed, but the instinct to dominate through pain has not. These are the 10 forbidden torture methods deleted from history books. And as long as power craves obedience, it's worse than you imagine.